I don't know exactly when I stopped trusting my own memory. It happened slowly. First, it was small things. Keys in the wrong drawer, a window I didn't remember closing. I told myself I was tired. That's what tired people do. They misplace things and forget. But the note was different. I found it on a Tuesday, folded under my coffee mug. It was my handwriting. I was sure of that, except I had never written it. And what it said made me sit down on the kitchen floor and stay there for a long time. I worked night shifts at a logistics warehouse on the edge of town. I get home around 6:15 in the morning, eat something cold, and sleep until early afternoon. My schedule is inverted, my social life is minimal, and I like it that way. I've been doing this for almost 3 years. I live alone in a 2-bedroom apartment. The second room is empty. I keep the door closed, not for any particular reason, just habit. I never go in there. There's nothing in there to go in for. The note said, "You already know what you saw. Don't ignore it this time." No date, no context, just that. In my own handwriting, on a piece of paper torn from the notepad I keep beside the stove. If you've ever read something that made your brain go completely quiet, not scared, just silent, that was the moment for me. If this kind of story unsettles you the way it unsettles me, leave a comment below. Subscribe if you're new here, and stay with me because it gets harder to explain from here. It started about 6 weeks before I found the note. A Saturday. I remember because I had worked a double shift and came home later than usual, around 8:40 in the morning. The building hallway was empty, which was normal. The elevator smelled like cigarette smoke, which was not. Nobody in that building smokes. I've lived there long enough to know the neighbors by sound. The couple in 4B argues on Fridays. The old man in 3A walks his dog at 7 a.m. without fail. Nobody smokes, but the smell was strong, almost fresh. I assumed it was a visitor. I went upstairs, showered, and slept. I didn't think about it again until 3 days later, when I noticed the smoke smell again, this time inside my own apartment. Faint, near the front door. My windows were closed. I checked the door. Locked. I stood in the hallway for a minute, trying to find a rational explanation. Air ducts, maybe. Old buildings move smells between units sometimes. I told myself that, and believed it because believing it was easier. I went to sleep at 2:17 in the afternoon. I woke up at 9:50 at night. The apartment was dark and the smell was gone. On my kitchen counter, the notepad that I keep next to the stove had been moved. It was now on the edge of the counter, near the sink. I never put it there. I use it for grocery lists. It lives next to the stove. I picked it up and checked the pages. Nothing written, nothing torn. I put it back next to the stove and stood there in the dark kitchen for longer than I should have. Then I made coffee and got ready for work, and decided it meant nothing. That was the first warning, the one I ignored. About 2 weeks after that, I bought a small security camera. Not because I was scared, I told myself that, but because I wanted to confirm there was nothing to be scared of. I mounted it in the living room, angled toward the front door, wide enough to catch the kitchen on the left edge of the frame. I checked the footage every morning when I got home. 3 days of nothing. 4 days. I started to feel almost disappointed, the way you feel when a doctor finds nothing wrong and you can't decide if that's a relief or not. On the 5th morning, I came home at 6:22. I sat down with coffee and opened the app on my phone. I scrolled back through the night, mostly still frames. The hallway light outside the door flickered at 1:08 in the morning. like it sometimes does. Nothing else. Then, at 3:44 in the morning, the camera adjusted. It does that sometimes when the light changes or something moves at the edge of its sensor. I almost scrolled past it. The frame was dark, nothing visible near the door. But the notepad on the kitchen counter, I could see it at the far left edge of the frame, was not where I had left it. I went back 30 seconds. It was beside the stove. At 3:44, it was at the edge of the sink. There was no motion between those two frames. No blur, no figure. The notepad simply changed position in a single second of footage, with no explanation the app could give me. I watched it 11 times. I'm not exaggerating. 11. I checked if the camera had dropped frames or rebooted. It hadn't. The timestamp was continuous. I sat at my kitchen table until noon and did not sleep. That evening I called my building manager and asked if anyone had a spare key to my unit. She checked. No spare key on file. Previous tenant had returned both copies when they moved out. I didn't know what to do with that. The note appeared on a Thursday. I found it the way I described, folded under my coffee mug. I don't know when it was placed there. I had come home at 6:10, set my bag down, and started the coffee without really looking at the counter. It was only when I lifted the mug that I felt the paper under it. My handwriting is specific. I have a way of writing the letter Y that curves back on itself. The note had that. Every letter looked like mine. I photographed it and zoomed in and compared it to the grocery list still on the notepad beside the stove. Identical. I have no memory of writing it. I spent that day making a list of possibilities. Sleep writing. It exists, technically, though I'd never done it. Someone who could replicate my handwriting. Something wrong with my medication, though I only take a low-dose blood pressure pill that has no documented neurological side effects. I moved the camera to face the kitchen counter that night before work. When I came home the next morning and checked the footage, 3:44 again, almost exactly, the camera had rebooted. Not a crash, a clean reboot, the kind that wipes the buffer. I have no footage of that night. I still have the note. I keep it in a plastic sleeve inside a book on my shelf. Sometimes I take it out and read it. You already know what you saw. Don't ignore it this time. The part I haven't said yet, the part I keep coming back to, is that I do know what it means. There's something I saw about a month before all of this started. Something in the stairwell of my building early in the morning. I told myself it was nothing. I walked past it and went upstairs and never mentioned it to anyone. I'm not ready to talk about that part yet. I changed my locks 2 weeks ago. New cylinder, new keys, done by a locksmith I paid in cash. The smoke smell hasn't come back. The notepad stays where I leave it. I check the camera footage every morning and it shows nothing. Maybe it's over. Maybe I fixed it without understanding what it was. But I sleep with the light on now. And every morning when I come home, before I do anything else, I check under my coffee mug. I don't know what I'd do if I found something there again. I don't know if I want to find something or if I'm terrified that I will.